Welcome to the Penguin Podcast, brought to you by Penguin Facilities Management.
Andrew, welcome to the Penguin Podcast. It's great to have you on. So, just for those who don't know, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you've done?
Firstly, thanks for having me on. Amazing setup. I absolutely love the logo on the wall as well, by the way. That is very cool. For many aspiring entrepreneurs, the moment they get an office with a logo on the wall is when they know they've made it around that. I'm Andrew, founder of Pareto Facilities Management, and I am also the chair of the IWFM.
Excellent. Well, yeah, it's great to have you on. And I thought we'd just sort of start with you delving into what you did and how you sort of started off with Pareto. So we kind of both had similar journeys in a way. So just tell us a bit about where that started for you.
So I went to university studying business management because I knew one day I wanted to run my own business. In the second year, I came across an internship scheme with a small facilities management business called Rollright, which was in 2007. So I never knew what FM was at that stage. I went and did an 8-week internship with them, and I saw this sector that I felt was very old-fashioned and outdated, and I did a lot of competitor analysis for them in those 8 weeks I was there. But I loved it. I could see there's a land of opportunity in FM. Finished that, went and did my degree, got my first in business, and then I came back in and they offered me a full-time job afterwards. So I started as a graduate, really, within Rollright, which was a £6 million business. We grew that business to about 12 million over 4 years. And I was working incredibly hard. I joined on an absolutely bottom of the rank salary, and I was working 100 hours a week for them, completely taking advantage of graduates like we do. And I got to about 24, so 4 years in, and I was ops director, and I had 250 staff that I was looking after. And then Rollright was really successful, and we got bought out by Bilfinger, a big German organisation. And overnight, I went from this £12 million business to £8 billion business in one go. And I did 2 years as a director within Bilfinger, and I struggled. Bilfinger, great company, but the sort of mentality of big corporate life wasn't for me. Yep. I'd gone from being the king of this small organisation, which you know the benefits of that, to working in this massive multinational that was really process driven, and that just wasn't for me. So when I was 26, 27, I woke up one day and decided I don't want to do this anymore, and I handed in 3 months' notice, and I literally started Pareto from my bedroom, with a laptop and a plan, but no money, no backers, no partners, no clients, literally nothing, just me and a laptop and an idea of how we were going to grow this really modern business in facilities management. Yeah. And that's how it all started in August 2014.
Yeah. So that moment of jumping into, building your own FM company with Pareto, tell us a bit when you had that moment of like, this is it, I'm all in, and how did you overcome, because I suppose for people listening who may be thinking of starting their own business, how did you overcome that sort of initial fear, those worries, maybe self-doubts? How did you get through that?
There's a whole podcast on managing self-doubt as an entrepreneur, and that is a real challenge. I think for me, I had this nagging feeling that I didn't want to wake up in my 40s one day and gone, oh dear, I should have started a business 15 years ago, and I just felt like I'd missed out. So I had this nagging doubt. And also for anyone in their 20s, it's a great time to test and explore and get things wrong and lose everything and start all over again. We were very fortunate that the journey we went on was a success, but deep down I knew that the worst case scenario was I lost my house, I lost my money, I lost my marriage, and I'd just go back and start again. And I was willing to put that on the line. And I think many people who do go and start businesses, it's really important that you understand what is it that you're potentially putting at risk to try and achieve that goal. In terms of the self-doubt, like many entrepreneurs, I'm an upstart, I do it my way, I just listen to the internal voice that's happening in here, and I didn't really ever focus on what other people were telling me. Now look, I had lots of negativity, there's lots of people saying it's not going to work, or this is not the right time to start a business, or you're not delivering the right services, or the sector's too big. There's all those things that people say. But generally you understand that it's people's insecurities that they're trying to push onto you around why they're raising those challenges. So for any budding entrepreneurs out there who are going to walk out of a job and try and start their own business, you need a really strong internal monologue where you understand why you're doing it, what the risk is, and maybe what you're going to achieve in the future by being able to go on this amazing journey. So I didn't struggle with doubt too much. And we went on this like bonkers journey over a 10-year period where I literally didn't have time to stop and think about how difficult it was going to be or what was at risk. and we just were like, go, go, go. And really, yeah, that's how it started.
Excellent. So in terms of you emerging then as what we would probably describe as a young leader within that, we've sort of both been lucky enough to be engaged in the PFM awards process of the Young Leader of the Year. Yeah. What did that mean to you? Because obviously you were a winner of that award. What did that mean to you, winning it?
It's actually a really good question. And awards for me, I was never very good at celebrating success. So that was we always were growing so quickly, and there was always the next opportunity that you were aiming for. So to actually stop and sort of believe that you'd done enough was something I never did. And actually, advice I give now is you really should try and focus on celebrating those small wins and taking some of the positives, because otherwise you're just grinding, and you never necessarily get to a point that you're happy with it. External awards for me were a validation that we were doing something that was different, that was special, and that we were good enough within the sector. So the PFM Awards and the Young Leader of the Year Award was particularly special for me because I was the youngest ever winner that they'd had. You probably took that title when you took over. But also I knew it was the beginning for me. It was enough to... I used to hate networking. It wasn't really part of something I was good at, which people who meet me now, they would find that a surprise. I used to go to networking events and stand in the corner with my BlackBerry on my own and play Brick Breaker or whatever it was on the Blackberries back in the day. But when I'd won the award, I could walk into a room and some people had heard of me then within there, and they would come over and go, "Oh, congratulations, you won the award." And it gave me such a confidence that I wasn't having to do icebreaker stuff myself, that there was already, the ice was broken. And that was, I found, really powerful, and that really helped my confidence grow. The other thing was, from a service provider perspective, to be able to tell customers you're an award-winning business or you're an award-winning individual is something that really makes you unique compared to others, and actually it can get you through the door and create opportunities that wouldn't be there otherwise. And I was very lucky. We've gone on to win 40-odd awards now individually and as Pareto, which included Leader of the Year for PFM last year, and then also Outstanding Contribution on the IWFM Awards. So for me, they are the things that I just love the most in terms of taking a stop for a second and just going, yes, we are good enough, we were good enough, and some of that external validation. But it just gave me confidence. And then I also then went to judge that award on Young Managers Forum. Yeah. I judged that award for about 6 or 7 years afterwards. And I got to a point where I'd met like the 100 best young people in the sector. And it will be no surprise, as Pareto grew, I hired some of those people, I sold to some of those people, and they became friends as we went through that process. So yeah, nothing but positivity about doing those awards early on.
Yeah, and it is a fantastic award process to be part of, isn't it?
Yeah.
But looking, and obviously you said that now you've sort of judged it for 7 years, since obviously winning. How have you noticed any differences in how maybe leadership styles have changed? You know, maybe things and methods of leading that are now at the forefront compared to when you were in that award process? Have you noticed any sort of differences?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Definitely, because I won in 2010, so where are we now? Nearly 15 years later. I think specifically with men, like well-being and helping others and emotional intelligence and professional vulnerability have come up the ranks so much than compared to that time, let alone compared to 15 years before that. You know, the sector's been on a real journey for the last 40 years or so. So I was at the Emerging Workplace Leaders event only last week, seeing the 3 finalists this year. And you can see there's way more emotion and there's way more vulnerability, and it's not all about just, oh, I sold this much to this customer or I have this many staff. It was about how they implemented well-being, how they made people feel, and there was just much more of a humanistic element to it. And I remember going through the process myself. I was always focused on trying to get across my professional achievements, but now it was almost as much about being a great person and actually what you've done for society and the client and your team, as opposed to just the financial success that you'd received. And I think, as I say, with men in particular, men's mental health and men's well-being has just come up the ranks so much in the last 10 years or so that we're actually seeing that as a strength now, which I don't think it necessarily was, say, 15, 20 years ago. Absolutely. And it's a welcome change for me, and it needs to continue to drive in that area.
So now, obviously, 2025, what to you does leadership mean? What does leadership look like to you within a business?
It's really nice, and my friend's going to love it. He just asked me yesterday, a friend of mine, what does leadership mean? He's a chef in Sweden, by the way, so he was sort of asking from that context. A leader for me is someone that creates the environment that those underneath them can thrive and eventually take their job. It's about this old idea of making yourself redundant by employing a great team. I think previously leadership was about keeping people in a box so that they couldn't ever really grow out of it or come and take your role, and it was all about self-preservation. But for me now, leadership is hire a great team, treat them incredibly well, and one day they'll do what you are doing now, but you need to be getting ready for how you take your next step up. And really, if we're selfish as leaders, if we can build great teams that are going to do a great job and do our job eventually, it either makes us redundant, which is one thing, or it means we can take the next step up, and that team rises that comes with it. So again, I think going back, that professional vulnerability in leadership is something that I definitely employed. I was never a leader, and we had 500 staff in the end, towards the end of when I exited Pareto. I would never go in and pretend everything was great or have my bravado out there and go, oh, look at how amazing this has been. If I was having a bad day, I'd tell people I was having a bad day. And there are many reasons that we have it. And, you know, and you'll appreciate this, but when you are on top of an organization that's growing, if there's a problem, you're the one people look to fix that problem. And there's a great burden that comes with entrepreneurship that the buck stops with you, and that's it. No one else, everyone else can have an input, but you're the one that will make the decision. And that can be a burden that is much easier if you can share it with people, and that you're not trying to push people away so that only you make the decision. And if you have a great team, and in Pareto, we grew it to have a great 15 or so senior team members that were all sweet equity holders within Pareto, and they came on that journey with us, and they just went on this amazing growth curve. But similarly, if I called them on a Saturday at 10 o'clock at night, they may have been a bit drunk, but I say, hey, this is what we need to do. And there was an expectation as an entrepreneur that I would give a lot, but I would also expect a lot as well. And that's not for everybody, but it worked for us.
No. But I think as well as that entrepreneur, what you're sort of instilling in the people who are around you is they're buying into your vision as well, aren't they? And if you can create a culture and environment that people buy into what you're trying to achieve as a whole, you could just get so much more, you know, performance out of them. They, as you say, they thrive in an environment that you sort of created, and that is important.
Well, absolutely. And the thing is, with entrepreneurship, you have to be consistent. As entrepreneurs, it's easy not to be, because we see something shiny over there and we're going to run off and do that, or we see something else over there. It's easy to see the latest AI technology or whatever and go, right, I'm now going to run down that at 1,000 miles an hour. But I think culture is about consistency. And for Pareto, it was specifically about ESG. So really, every decision that we wanted to make had an ESG focus to it. And with my working class roots and a really, vibrant and creative and different upbringing, I had so many rich experiences as a young person that when I came into running my own business, all I ever wanted to do was help people. And for any business leaders and owners out there, I feel as you grow in size of turnover and you start making profit and making sustainable profit, I personally feel you have a responsibility to go and help other people, either within your own organization or outside of it as well. Profit is really hard to make, but also everybody in this world is just trying to make ends meet and make everything happen. The easier you can make their lives, and the easier that then is to build loyalty and bring them on the journey with you. Like I said, with the leadership team, we could do it through Sweet Equity, but there were 480 other people that we also were trying to deliver a great business to and bring them on the journey as well. And we did have a brilliantly high retention rate, but I always felt we could do more and we could do better. And I think the challenge in FM is, as businesses get bigger, how do you keep hold of that culture? How do you keep that love that comes with having a small team? And there isn't a secret. It's harder as you get bigger. You just need to keep employing a brilliant middle management and senior management level that are going to deliver that culture regardless of what happens. And I think many FM businesses out there will understand that struggle, let alone the big guys that have got 50,000 staff. I do not envy their position of trying to create a culture in that environment.
Yeah, it's hard with that many numbers to, ensure that culture spreads. Multiple offices, different sites, and everyone from different backgrounds as well at the end of the day. So now, obviously, looking back on where you are now, looking back at obviously how you've built Pareto and everything, what would be your advice to your younger self, sort of starting out again and whatnot? Now you've sort of gone through it all. I guess.
I do a bit of self-reflection now, having stepped back from 18 months since we did the exit. I think for me, I probably didn't realize the journey I was about to go on, and I probably didn't realize that it would consume every element of my life for 9 years or so. I think as an entrepreneur, you make a lot of sacrifices, and for me, sacrifice was time with my family, time with my friends, time even with my kids early on when they were born as well. So I probably would just give myself some advice that be prepared for that sacrifice. And if you can, try and carve out more time to do more of the things that you like along that way. Because I was so determined and I knew there was an exit coming for me in the future, I was happy to sort of just compartmentalize that, move it all to the side, and just be like, in 6 years' time, I can see my mates. That's fine.
I'm just you're pushing through, aren't you?
Yeah, you just keep going. And we were very fortunate that our growth was really significant. You know, some years we were growing 300% year on year. When you're in the middle of that and you have investment coming in and you have potential future exits and equity and everything, it's very easy just to be entirely laser focused on that. And for us, we knew we were able to keep growing and keep going. So yeah, for me, entrepreneurship is about sacrifice, and it is about working harder than the next guy, because if you don't, then they'll go and take your opportunities. But it's also about understanding that you may be in this for 20 years. You know, I was fortunate that I did a 9 to 10 year scenario myself, which was probably just long enough for me that if I'd have had to keep going much longer, burnout would have been a real thing. But you know, when you're sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night and you're really running on caffeine and nothing else, it can be a bit of a challenge. So yeah, be prepared, get ready, understand what it is that you're putting on the line and why in your soul you are doing it, and sort of have an idea about what success looks like at the end. Because let's not take for granted, success for all of us is different. And success might be an 8-figure exit, and that might be what you want to get. You want 10 million quid in your account one day, that's great. But I worked with a business psychologist, and he was saying, look, entrepreneurs, like Olympic athletes, you're swimming towards an island. And for athletes, it's a gold medal. And for entrepreneurs, it's a £10 million check one day or whatever. When you get there, your chances of depression are very high because you are running, or swimming, whatever. You get to the island, you achieve your goal, then what?
Yes.
And I had my then what when I was 37. And actually, so like since then, it's been about what is my life about? What am I trying to achieve? And what legacy am I trying to leave behind? We all take for granted that we're going to live until we're 80, but we never know. And I think that really weighs on my mind more so today.
So obviously now that the exit has happened, I know that you've recently become the chair of the IWFM.
Yes.
So tell me a bit more about the role that you're doing there and other things that you're sort of having an interest in, whether personally or you know, since your exit from Pareto.
Yeah, IWFM, I have been a loyal servant to as a volunteer for approaching 15 years now. And my volunteer journey with IWFM has been part of the core success that I had in professional business as well. I started on the risings and I worked my way through. I did judging for a long time. I was on the governance committee. I've been a non-exec for nearly 5 years now, and then just moved to chair most recently. I just think it is a huge benefit to be part of something like IWFM, and a huge privilege because we get voted onto the board as non-exec. So of our thousands of members, we are the ones that get voted to represent the sector. And that actually makes me feel really good because it feels like you've been selected. And although we're volunteers, I just feel like it is a huge privilege to be there. And many people in IWFM are volunteers, and they are amazing people, as we are as a non-exec. So yes, I've just taken over as chair. I think there's some brilliant things about IWFM right now. So we're making a financial surplus for the first time in 6 years, which is a brilliant thing for our steps towards chartership. We have got some brilliant work around IWFM Direct in the academy. Our levels 2 through level 7 training is brilliant. And actually that's really getting good traction within the sector, but we have work to do. So really the membership proposition and the value proposition is where I want to focus. I've come in now at the beginning of a new 5-year strategy. So we're just signing the strategy off now, but it will be focused around all those great things that I've just mentioned, but enhancing what it means to be a member. So why do people want to be a member? Why will they stay? Why will they renew? And really understanding why the turnover is slightly higher than we'd like it to be in membership. So I feel like I've got the bit between my teeth. I'm a bit younger than the chairs they've had before, so I obviously bring a slightly different view of how things should work. But I love IWFM because it's very process driven. They have guidelines, they have governance, they have terms of reference. And if you try and go outside of those, someone will say, no, this is how we do it.
Yeah.
And in private business, that's not always the way that things happen. So I've learned an awful lot. And it's actually a very deliberate reason I went into IWFM, so I could experience that. Outside of IWFM, I bought a farm over in Oxford. So I live on a farm now. I mainly, most days, are taking the kids out on the quad bike and pick some fruit and make some jam and maybe make some sourdough to eat. I planted my own forest, which, for reference, 86% of it died over the summer.
Okay, it is a bit of a challenge.
Yes, the driest summer on record.
Yeah.
So we're replanting that in January. I have just bought a nature reserve, which backs onto my land. So I'm sort of growing my sustainability credentials personally. Life for me is now about balance, and like real balance. And yes, I am fortunate in a wealth perspective, but really what that enables me to do is go back and enjoy my time with the family. And people ask me like what success actually means. Success to me is I wake up in the morning, I have no alarm clock. My daughter comes in who's 6 and gives me a cuddle for 20 minutes, and I'm fully in that moment while we're doing it. And then I get up with the kids and we have breakfast and I take them to school. And I have not thought about the stresses of work once. Yeah. That's what success means to me. And although I needed wealth to get me to that point, you don't need wealth to get to that point. You just have to sometimes get out of your own way and change your mindset and mentality to make that possible. So I am really enjoying the richness of that right now. But look, I'm still non-exec for Pareto. Pareto is going on a great journey. We've grown another 20 million in the last year or so. So some brilliant forward planning with them. We are interested in more mergers and acquisition work. There's some great work around sustainability. So I'm really excited about what Pareto is still doing. So between picking berries and making jam, working as the chair of IWFM and supporting Pareto as a non-exec, still plenty for me to do. Yeah. But it just means that my day-to-day decision making is back in my control. And there is something incredibly freeing about that as a 39-year-old that's trying to work it all out.
Yeah, sounds amazing. It's definitely one of those dreams that I share. Buying a farm, your own land, and just enjoying it in time with family. So, but within there, you touched in on mindset. Now, obviously, everyone talks about mindset can be such a powerful driver behind success. For you, what did your mindset look at, which sort of enabled the success of Pareto for yourself?
Yeah, sheer bloody hard work is all my mindset was. It was always just about. I felt I was a competent individual. I still do now. I felt that I could outwork the person next to me, and I felt that probably I could be smarter about how I was doing things. And also, I think university was a big catalyst for me, because when I went to Essex to study business, the main thing they taught us was be critical of everything. So if you read a textbook and it says X, Y, Z, tell me why they're wrong. And that was the approach to it. So every action I tried to approach was, how are we going to do this better? And I think for Pareto early doors, and you know what I mean, but it sounds so simple. I came to the sector when the big boys were the ones that were running everything on 3 or 4% EBITDA, and not particularly sexy industry to be in. But mainly, if they went to a customer, they would say, here's our concept evolution system. If you want to come and work with us, customer, you need to do it our way. Because we're so big that our processes are all based around this one system that we've got. I just turned it round. I just said, hey, what do you actually want? Let us build something for you. And famously, Pareto went on to have 11 different CAFAM systems in the end, because we're always trying to build something different. But you know, that adaptability, how do you want your invoicing to be done? How are staff treated on your site? What benefits do they want? How do you want your invoicing? There's just so many different things that that you can change around and do. So yeah, for me, my mindset was always innovative in terms of trying to change things around and be critical of things in a positive way, but to try and get the best outcome. And actually, and you guys are exactly the same, I was very consistently going up against contractors 300 times our size, if not more, and we were winning. And that is an incredibly powerful position to be in. But you have to be able to deliver, you have to have a great process and system behind it, and you have to then really focus on longevity of customers, because we all know in this sector, you can have contracts for 2 or 3 years, and they get tendered by procurement, and they go out again, and you can easily lose them on a couple of percent. So it's not about just winning them, it's about being amazing and retaining them at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely do think retention, as you mentioned, it is a core factor to any success of the business going forward, because you know, you put so much time, effort and resources into winning the clients. Very hard to win them, but it's quite easy to lose them. And you know, certainly for ourselves, we don't ever want to become that company where you've got such a big churn and funnel in of, you know, potential opportunities and then you lose sight of, you know, ultimately the customers you've built your business on. So yeah, no, it's a very good point and important.
Well, if I just come back in as well, we were talking just before this, sometimes negative relationships can soak up so much of your time and resource that the positive relationships just don't get as much as they did before, and in terms of focus, and that can be really difficult because as a delivery manager or as a leader or whatever, you want to go out and have all those wonderful coffees and lunches and conversations and that really proactive strategic stuff. But so much time in FM is spent on trying to fight fires with people that can be very difficult. And ultimately what that does is it drains resource. There's only so much capacity we all have mentally on a daily basis to deal with negativity. Yeah. And if it's always being sucked up by certain people, it can really impact the positive relationships. And I'd just say for any FM style people that are out there, I've been there, I've done it, I've delivered it, we all have. I know how difficult it can be. But if you're ever getting to a point where it's on top of you, you just need to speak to your leadership team and just make sure that you can find a way to get out of that negativity. Because although negative clients and negative people is something you will always deal with, it's one of those things that a problem shared is a problem halved, and actually you can really try and focus on those things together. And occasionally, and this happened in my earlier career, if you need someone much more senior than you to go in and just have a conversation, that can be really powerful as well. And there's nothing weak about that happening.
No, because as well, it's, you know, they're bringing experience, and it's, you know, something that ultimately as a leader, you're always looking to learn as well. So if there's someone there with that bit more of experience that you can learn from, you know, it's a great tactic to use, definitely.
And leaders are generally able to take more risks than you are. The worst thing you could do is go and start spouting off to a customer as a middle manager and then get in a lot of trouble yourself. There are certain ways that you deal with negativity, I think. And it's not just customers, by the way. It's suppliers, it's your own team, it's the wider service providers within the sector. There are many challenges around that. And I think men in particular, and, you know, suicide rates amongst under 45s in men is still incredibly high. It's just something that we have to continue to talk about, the well-being of men in particular, to make sure that they understand that if they're in trouble, they just need to ask for help. And construction in particular is a very high suicide rate within men within that specific sector. Yeah,
it is absolutely massive, and obviously it's probably an under-researched and underappreciated area is men's mental health. And I know obviously you're a big advocate for it, but is there anything that you've come across in terms of, you know, things that people should be doing to create a better environment for men's mental health within the workplace?
For me, it just starts with culture, and culture comes from the leadership team. You need a culture where if someone is having a problem, they're able to raise it. And, you know, it's really basic, but I really love things like WhatsApp. Certainly for Generation Y and Z, they're not always brilliant at talking about their feelings face to face, but what they are good at doing is writing a 5-paragraph WhatsApp message that says this is actually how I'm feeling. And I think it comes back from when we were teenagers and we were trying to send a text to our crush for the first time and not really knowing what it was that we wanted to say. So I think just having open channels, also mental health first aiders, you know, it's tried and tested now, but it's important to have those and make sure they're accessible. In Pareto, something we put in was something called ULife, which is like a well-being management app. And on there is a 24-hour mental health doctor. So you're able to, if you're in trouble or you need to speak to somebody completely unbeknown to the business, which is very important, you're able to go on there 24 hours a day and get some support. I think that's very valuable. And, you know, trying to support everybody with their mental health is something that as I grew Pareto, it was a real focus for us. It wasn't just about supporting all those marginalised communities. It was saying, regardless of what your background is, we understand people will all struggle at different stages, and here's the tools we can give you to try and help with that.
Yeah, excellent. Moving things towards the future.
Yes.
For you, where do you see the industry going, and what do you see driving the industry forward over the next sort of 5-10 years? Obviously, you've had a decade or so in the industry. What does the next one look like?
If I look at our IWFM Outlook surveys, so what's important to our members, it tends to be about sustainability and predominantly within cost control and utility management. So I think in the last Outlook survey, the top 5 things that people were interested in, 4 of them were sustainability related. We cannot move away from the fact that the net zero deadline is looming. And I'm very critical of net zero because there are many people making promises today that won't be here in 2050 to deal with what the promises are that they've made. And that's why, so for like Pareto, we're really trying to go down the net zero journey much earlier. So we're looking at 2027, 2028, so that we're able to demonstrate that before the big competitors, we're maybe 20 years earlier than they are, which is a very powerful thing. So sustainability has to really be the focus. And with net zero, I don't think we're going to get there as a country, but legislation will push us to get to certain areas. And if we're not focused on that now, 20 years is not a long time in business. It will certainly come round quite quickly. And that's what our members are telling us from an IWFM perspective. The other thing, as long as I've been in the sector, which is 15 odd years now, war on talent, not enough young people coming in, not enough skills for the future. That is what I've heard about for the last 15 years. It's no different to when I started to what it is today. And with things like Brexit and with things like COVID, it's really taken some people out of the sector that were brilliant for us before. Certainly the Eastern European engineering market was a really valuable part of the sector, which we've now lost. And I think is a deep loss for us. I just believe in growing your own. You know, like the apprenticeship levy, there is millions, if not billions, wasted every year by big organisations who are not growing apprentices. And if you want to train people to be a certain way in terms of customer service, or you need welders or electricians or mechanical guys, whatever, you can grow it now. And actually, you can go, what I used to do was take on level 3 apprentices. So they'd already done their health and safety. They're maybe 18 by that stage. A 2-year course that they did at college, by the time they were 20, they're ready to be on the tools.
Yeah,
you know, they were fully qualified. They're good to go. And I'm never saying exploit people financially, but a apprentice is a lot cheaper than a seasoned electrician who, as there's less and less of them now, the salaries are going up really quite significantly. So if I was starting again, I think some sort of apprenticeship academy or school or just something that was consistently spitting them out would be something that I would focus on, because there are some brilliant young people out there that just give them the opportunity to show you what they can do. And also we have a sector that's aging. You know, we know 50% of this sector is over 50 years old. We know that the sector is getting older. And no slight on people who are older, but some younger person who is really coming in to try and make an impression because they've got 50 years of work ahead of them is a great option, you know, as someone who's actually going to come and try and change the world and hopefully do something like we've been doing in terms of creating these great organisations. I also think you can create great entrepreneurs at that early stage as well, because if you can give them some structure and give them the technical skill set that they need, but also try and teach them about money and sales and commercials, I think you can just do some like brilliant things for people early on. And leaders like yourself who are exemplars in showing young people what they can achieve, that's how you can capture people's attention. Yes. And maybe they're the ones that will change the world.
And I think, you know, further to that with apprenticeship schemes, it also gives young people, you know, an alternative route as well from where they go. Certainly feel from my, you know, education, sixth form, then undergraduate, university and a master's degree, you know, it was very much that's the route for you during my educational time. And, you know, I ended up doing a sports science degree, then a master's in strength and conditioning.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I cut my cloth cleaning windows, which then led me down the route of starting Penguin. Yeah. So, you know, I think it's important for younger people to be aware that there are alternatives to universities. And I do think we probably, as a society, it's university or you're not success. Yeah. And I don't believe university is for everyone. I don't believe it's needed for some things either as well. And getting an apprenticeship and getting a skill, you know, like plumbing, gas, electrics, it's so worthwhile, especially for those people who are hands-on and, you know, more engineer mechanically minded as individuals. So
I mean, I completely agree. And the UK government is talking about it's going to need loads more engineers for the future, because I think that either the nuclear programme or whatever we're going to be doing within the UK, there is going to be a lot more needed. And actually, my daughter, who's 6, I'd love for her to go and be a welder. Yeah. You know, because imagine how much
on the job is invaluable.
Absolutely,
getting that experience there.
And just imagine how valuable that will be. Certainly, as a woman in the engineering space, it's. I think it could be a great career, but it's not for me as a pushy father to decide what they're going to do. Certainly not at this early stage. But yeah, I just completely agree. I think the cost of university now. So what, 50 odd grand to go and do a 3-year course?
More,
it's just insane,
and it's a generation built on debt, and some point that will catch up with everybody.
Well, and they just will never pay it off. I mean, my wife says she had about 15 grand of debt, as I did when we came out. She's still paying it off now. Yeah. And I think that's the reality for a lot of people, and because you only pay it off after you start earning 25 grand, right? So there's a whole risk that comes with that for the future debt. But I think the government is just keen to try and get as many people through university.
Yeah, it looks good on paper, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. But I'd agree with you. It's not only, you should only go to uni if you think you're going to be able to get a better job as a result. I look at people like Ella Gladwin. So Ella is doing a modern apprenticeship or graduate apprenticeship where she is simultaneously studying and she's working at the same time with thematic. And it is such a great idea because for 4 years she's learning work and she's learning the technical skill set of it, and she's doing a degree at the same time. So I think actually in Germany, from what I understand, that's a pretty standard route for people who are 18. I think we could learn an awful lot from that. And actually, when we look to our friends in Europe, they're doing things a lot better than we do in certain areas.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that, definitely. So, sort of final element of this question I wanted to ask you: what now you've exited Pareto, and obviously you're doing all these other great things with IDFM and stuff. What for you though is your most favourite part? Favourite hobby, favourite thing to do? What are you getting the most enjoyment out of now? Or favourite toy even? You mentioned quad bikes.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate. My life is full of joy in many ways. In the middle of Pareto, I really got into skydiving. That was a big thing, and I often part of it was stress management, because for the 60 seconds that you're falling out of a plane without the parachute open, you don't know whether you're going to live or die, and that's quite an exhilarating feeling. I ended up doing 10 of them and we did 100 in Pareto in total. I think for me, my favourite thing now is I get to have conversations like this. I have been able to decompress over the last 18 months and just realise what's important to me personally. Apart from promoting Pareto and IWFM, I have nothing to sell. I'm not here to try and gain anything other than just having chats with great people and trying to inspire the next generation of either entrepreneurs or workplace professionals. I don't really mind which. I just think that I truly believe it doesn't matter what your background is, and it doesn't matter where you've come from, what you've done before. I think you can come into facilities management in particular and have an amazing career. And I love your story that you went and studied sports. You ended up being a window cleaner, and everyone's like, that's not successful being a window cleaner. But look at the business you've built off the back of that. It's incredibly special. And I'm sure you'd say there was no specific entrepreneurial training. There was nothing about it. It's just
I can tell you, my mum was shocked when I told her I was going to forego the university study and clean windows.
But actually, it's such a good origin story around what it takes to begin with, and then what you've built up from that point. And I think we need more people like that who are going to come and keep trying to change the game and keep us on our toes. Who's biting on our heels, doing it better than we were. And I think that's why I'm so delighted for you in terms of the way that Penguin has grown and the work that you've been doing. So yeah, for me, I'm just enjoying the time chatting to people and just regaining myself again and just understanding what life means about to me. Like I say, I'm 39 now. I hope to have some more years to live. Absolutely. And I've been fortunate to achieve all my personal goals now. And now it's just about what's next, but being in the moment. And it's easy to say, but I think really hard to do. And I just get so much joy from just being there and being part of it. And having a cup of tea with my mum is like one of the highlights of the week now. Nice. And I find that incredibly powerful. Yeah. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the Penguin Podcast. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.